Hello, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me today. At the moment, Sri Lanka is going through a very difficult time period. I have heard many people saying that some of the problems in Sri Lanka are due to very poor project management. So today I am going to talk about project management. First, let me share my screen with you. Give me a second.
In progress.
So, topic of my video is I am the tea expert. I project manage my cup of tea, delivering results in the most effective way. Managing projects for the benefit of customers and stakeholders. Is it difficult? So that's my next set of topics. The content of my video is going to cover these topics, these areas. I'll talk a little bit about my background, effective project management to deliver engineering excellence. What is a project? My project, my cup of tea. Customers, resources, costs, and processes. Improving processes and improving effectiveness. Customer and stakeholder satisfaction. Measuring quality and agreed success criteria. Managing risks. And at the end, a very small summary. So let's start. For most of my life, I was employed by a large, well-known international company. I had the opportunity and the privilege to work at the forefront of technology, managing large, complex engineering projects. My employer developed and manufactured a range of highly complex engineering products for many different applications. Possibly, lives of millions of people depended on the safety and reliability of these products. At the same time, these products brought a lot of pleasure and happiness to millions of people throughout the world. These products have and always had a high reputation for engineering excellence, quality, and reliability. They always manage to satisfy many customer requirements relating to cost, delivery, performance, safety, reliability, and maintenance. That was only possible because they depended on effective and efficient project management techniques. Let me repeat that again. This organization managed to produce excellent, reliable, safe engineering products only because they used effective and efficient project management techniques. So, just because top-end complex engineering products could be managed through engineering project management, can we apply the same principles for other activities, other projects? Can we deliver successful results in other projects using the same principles? Whether they are small, large, engineering or non-engineering related. In my view, irrespective of the circumstances, irrespective of the scale of the activity, one can always apply project management principles successfully to complete activities for the satisfaction of customers and stakeholders in any situation. Is project management difficult? It is a lot easier than many people imagine. Of course, like anything else, one has to make an effort and must be committed to make it a success. Essential features of a project. Every project must have a deliverable, a customer, an agreed cost, and agreed quality measurements, quality measures, quality systems. To deliver the project, that is to achieve the agreed outcomes, plans need to be created so that we can meet the timescales, and processes need to be established, and resources need to be managed within the agreed budgets, within agreed time limits. To demonstrate some of the key aspects of effective project management, I am going to use a simple story about making a cup of tea. Now, the cup of tea is something very simple. So you may wonder, what's that got to do with a project? A project can be any activity. It may involve one person, 100 people, 1,000 people, or a million people. As long as it has a deliverable, it has a set of customers, and there is a cost limit and quality measures, we can apply project management principles very successfully. So let me come back to my original topic. I am the tea expert. I project manage my cup of tea, delivering results in the most effective way. My project, my cup of tea. Many years ago, I started working for a well-known high technology company in the UK. In my company, in our office complex, there was a kitchen, and many people use this facility to make tea, coffee, or any other drinks. I decided that I must use this facility to make tea for myself. But of course, although I came from Sri Lanka, I had no experience of making tea. Although in Sri Lanka I always had tea, I never made a cup of tea. So this was a new experience. So this was a problem for me. So I had to think. I had to plan what to do. First of all, what do I need to make a cup of tea? Tea and sugar, water and milk, a sweetener? Perhaps not, because I do take sugar, I don't need a sweetener. A cup, a kettle, and a spoon. But of course, in the kitchen, there was an electric kettle, and there was a continuous supply of water. So all I had to get was tea, sugar, milk, a cup, and a spoon. So the first lesson learned, when you start any project, the first thing we have to do is to decide what that project is about. What are we supposed to deliver? In my case, it's a cup of tea. And then decide what resources are required to make that project a success. In my case, what do I need to make a nice cup of tea? So the next day, I did some shopping and I bought some tea bags, sugar, milk, a cup, and a spoon, and took them to the office. Of course, being in the UK, I could buy tea bags. If I were in Sri Lanka, I might have bought some tea leaves in a packet. The next problem, I got the materials, I got the resources I need to make a cup of tea, but how do I make it? As I told you, I had never made a cup of tea when I was in Sri Lanka. What is the process? What's the sequence of activities to make that cup of tea? Where do I start? Get the tea bags, milk, sugar, and water ready? Mix the tea and milk? No, that doesn't sound right. Mix the tea and the water together? Even that doesn't sound right. So what do I do? Boil the water first. Place the tea bag in the cup. Pour boiled water into the cup. which contains the tea bag, of course. Wait for some time, remove the tea bag, add sugar into the cup, stir the sugar in, add the milk, stir the milk in. Then you end up with a nice cup of tea. So the lesson learned in any project, having decided what the project is about and having decided what resources are required, defined all the activities, defined all the actions and the correct sequence to get the correct result or to achieve the right goals. So that's the lesson learned. Now, in this case, who was my customer? The customer was, in fact, myself. And what about the cost? In this situation, the cost was simply the cost of the cup, the spoon, tea, sugar, and milk. As you know, the cup and the spoon, they will last forever. So it's a fixed cost. I don't have to buy another cup and a spoon for a long time. On the other hand, the cost of the tea, sugar, and milk, it would depend on how much tea, sugar, and milk I use over a period of time. So depending on the length of the time, the quantity, the cost of the tea, sugar, and cost of the tea, sugar, and milk will vary. So there are variable costs. The process. The process I used to describe how to make tea, is that correct? Is that complete? Did I identify all the necessary activities? Was that the best way? Was that the best process of making a nice cup of tea in the most efficient way? I started the process with tea bags bought from a shop. Someone might challenge me and say that the process really starts with growing tea plants and picking tea leaves and then drying tea leaves and so on and so forth. The above actions may have been necessary for a few hundred years ago. But today, because we have an efficient supply chain, we can buy tea bags or tea leaves in a shop. When I was in Sri Lanka as a young chap, at a much younger age, we did not have tea bags. We always used tea leaves or tea powder. Also, in some parts of Sri Lanka, we may have to start the process by fetching water from the nearest well before thinking about boiling water. We may have to use some other means of boiling rather than an electric kettle, depending on the place. So the process of making tea, in this case, or the process associated with some other activity in some other project may vary depending on the location, the circumstances, and the time. So we must remember the most effective process may vary from place to place, time to time, and depending on the geographical location. The first time I made a cup of tea for myself in this office, this is what I did. Boil the water first, place the tea bag in the cup, pour the water into the cup, pour the water into the cup, the boiled water I mean, waited for some time, removed the tea bag, added sugar into the cup, stirred the sugar in, added the milk, stirred the milk in, and I had a nice cup of tea in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. It was successful. I had a nice cup of tea. But was it the most efficient way of making a cup of tea? Let's look at it again. There's a better way to make a cup of tea. Now, my first cup of tea took 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, after that, I started making tea fairly regularly in the office. And I gradually got better and better at making it. As a Sri Lankan, I wanted to be an expert tea maker, so I thought about improving the process. This is my new improved process with well-defined quantities and proper timing, which are standardized. Whereas in the previous process, I used qualitative judgment. First step is to fill the kettle to a sufficient level with water and start boiling. Whilst the water is boiling, place the tea bag in the cup. Add 2 teaspoons of sugar into the cup. Now, the measure of sugar in the UK was using teaspoon size, small teaspoons. Add 20 milliliters of milk. When boiled, pour the water into the cup. Wait for 30 seconds, quantified. Remove the tea bag and stir. Tea is ready in 3 minutes 35 seconds. Now think about it. My first cup took 4 minutes 30 seconds. This is done in 3 minutes 35 seconds. So it's an improvement of efficiency and time saving of approximately 20%. That's a much better process. Now, I must be an expert tea maker because of that. Am I? Well, we'll see in a minute. So what's the lesson learned here? What lesson have I learned? In any project, in any task, we have to organize the activities to minimize the time and effort. The past experience is always helpful. If you don't have enough experience, always ask somebody else who had the experience so that you can organize the activities in the most efficient, productive way to deliver the results you want. Later on, I discovered that there was a tea club in the office. When you join the club, you don't have to buy your own tea, sugar, etc. Someone always buy tea, coffee, sugar, milk in bulk. It's stored in the kitchen, in a fridge, or in a cupboard. At tea time, one person in turn who belongs to the club take the responsibility for making tea for everyone in the office. I joined this club. One day it was my turn to make the tea. I had to make tea for 4 of my colleagues and myself, also 5 cups. I had to plan my activities. Now, until that time, I used to make 1 cup of tea at a time, but this time I had to make 5. So I had to plan. This was my initial plan. Boil the water, place a tea bag in the first cup, put 2 sugars, 20 milliliters of milk, wait for 30 seconds, remove the tea bag, stir. First cup is ready in 3 minutes 35 seconds. Put the tea bag in the second cup, put 2 spoons of sugar, put the milk, pour the water, wait for 30 seconds. Remove the tea bag, stir. The second cup is ready in 5 minutes 30 seconds. In the same way, the third cup is ready in 7 minutes 30 seconds. Fourth cup is ready in 9 minutes 30 seconds. Fifth cup is ready in 11 minutes 30 seconds. Am I going to be a tea expert using this process? Not really, I don't think so. Because I'm a potential tea expert, I realized that my initial plan was not that efficient. So I had to improve it. So this is what I did. I started boiling the water. Whilst the water was boiling, place tea bags in all 5 cups. Put sugar and milk into all the cups. When boiled, poured water into all the cups, one after another. Waited for 30 seconds. Removed tea bags and stirred. All 5 cups were ready in 4 minutes 30 seconds instead of 11 minutes 30 seconds, a saving of 60% of time. That's a huge amount of saving. So what's the lesson learned? In any project, when you look at the activities, we can select the activities that can be carried out in parallel at the same time rather than one after another. So by carrying out activities in parallel, like boiling water and putting tea bags and sugar into the cups, one can save a lot of time and improve time efficiency. Now, am I the expert tea maker? We'll find out. My colleague's response. Having made 5 cups of tea with pride, I served the tea to my colleagues. They all said thank you and took 1 cup each that belongs to them. The first colleague said reluctantly, he was a bit embarrassed, I don't take any milk. The second and the third said, they don't take any sugar. Fourth said, a brilliant cup of tea. He was the only happy customer. The other 3 were less than happy. So they had to make another cup of tea. So 75% of my customers were not satisfied. Only 25% were satisfied. What went wrong? I did not ask my customers how they wanted their tea, with or without milk, with or without sugar. I should have asked those questions before I made the tea. So what's the lesson learned? Always ask the customers and stakeholders, what exactly do they expect? What do they expect to be delivered? Having gone through this experience, now, am I the expert tea maker? I don't think so yet. We'll see. A week later, next episode. Once again, it was my turn to make tea. This time there were 6 of my colleagues wanting tea. By now, because I am the expert, I knew how to make tea in the most effective way, or at least that's what I thought. I asked each person if they took sugar and if they wanted milk. I boiled the water. Whilst water was boiling, placed tea bags in all 7 cups, put sugar and milk as required. When boiled, poured the water in, waited for 30 seconds, removed tea bags and stirred. All 7 cups were ready in 7 minutes. Average time per cup, 1 minute compared to 3 minutes 30 seconds for individual cup. Having achieved this success, am I now the tea expert? Let's find out. My colleagues' responses. With pride, I served the tea to all 6 of my colleagues. They all said thank you, and they got 1 cup each. The first and the second colleague said, nice cup of tea. I was very happy. 2 of them liked my tea. The next one said, too much sugar. Oh dear. Of course, I put 2 sugars, 2 teaspoons. He only needed 1. The next one said, tea is too weak. Of course, I used my standard 30 seconds time for making the tea. He wanted a strong tea. I should have left the tea bag in the water for 60 seconds. The fifth said it was a brilliant cup. Again, I was happy. The last one said, not enough sugar. I did put 2 sugars, 2 teaspoons, but of course, this guy takes 3 teaspoons. So only 50% of my customers were not, only 50% of my customers were happy. The other 50% were not happy. Of course, this time it was better than the last time. The first time around, 75% of my customers were unhappy. This time only 50%. So it's an improvement, yet it's not good enough, is it? What went wrong? Although I did ask everyone whether they wanted sugar and milk, I did not ask how many sugars they took and if they liked strong or weak tea. That meant I did not agree the quality requirements with my customers. So the lesson learned, always agree with the customers how to measure the quality of the delivered product. Having got this experience, am I the tea expert now? Let's find out. Before I finish my presentation, I want to share two little stories with you. The first story, in my group, there was a lady colleague, and one day it was her turn to make tea for everybody. Now, she was highly conscious of health. She did not take any sugar at all, and also she usually had very weak tea. So, because she was very well intended, because she was very health conscious, she wanted to give a very healthy cup of tea to everybody. So she made the tea without any sugar, and she made weak tea for everybody. But none of her colleagues liked the tea. So what went wrong here? She decided what the customer must have. Without customers' consent or agreement, she didn't discuss it with the customers, and that is what was wrong. Lesson learned, always discuss with customers and stakeholders. Agree the details and the quality of deliverables. Don't try to deliver what you think is good. Don't try to deliver what you think is correct. It will never work. The second story. Many years ago, I was living in Sheffield in the UK. I was living in an apartment or little flat on the third floor of a building. And I shared the flat with some other person. By this time, of course, I was pretty good at making tea. I always paid attention to the quality of requirements for each cup of tea, weak or strong, with or without milk, how many teaspoons of sugar, etc. So I was very proud to be a tea expert. At the time I was studying at Sheffield, and I used to play badminton at the university. I used to go to play badminton around 5:30 in the evening to be in the gym by 6 o'clock. So one day I was ready to go to the gym when my partner in the flat, that person said, "Before you go, could you please make a cup of tea for me? I am busy doing something." I said, "Of course. It only takes a few minutes to make a cup of tea." So I went to the kitchen, usual process, very effectively, very efficiently, I made a cup of tea. And then I shouted, "Your tea is on the kitchen table," and started walking downstairs from the third floor down to the ground floor. Halfway through the stairs, the person I was sharing the flat with shouted at me. He said, "Would you please come upstairs for a second before you go?" So I thought, what's going on? I went upstairs. And my flatmate said, "Have a drink of this cup of tea." I took one sip and immediately threw it out of my mouth. It was full of salt. Nobody could drink that tea. So what went wrong? In the UK, the white sugar and white salt looks alike. We used to keep sugar in one glass jar and the salt in another glass jar very similar, but they were not labeled. So I did not check the information. I did not identify the potential risk. I did not check if this white stuff was sugar or salt. And I took a risk and it went wrong. So the first lesson learned, how much you prepare in a project, regardless of how much you prepared you are, unplanned events can happen and that they could cause a lot of difficulties. Therefore, at the beginning of a project, always carry out a risk assessment, identify potential risks, and mitigate significant risks. That's the first lesson. Second lesson, when things go wrong, rather than looking for somebody to blame, always look for a solution and decide how to improve the process. So what we did was, I took the two glass jars, one with sugar, one with salt, and put large labels. One said salt, the other said sugar. So we could not make a mistake. We improved the process. Having done that, having learned how to manage risks, now I am definitely the expert tea maker. And so far, I remain that expertise. I maintain that expertise. The summary. To successfully manage a project, identify who the customers are and who the stakeholders are. Agree with the customers and the stakeholders what the deliverables are, what the goals are. Agree the costs, and then evaluate the costs and the benefits to ensure there's a positive business case. Also, agree in advance with the customers and the stakeholders the success criteria and how to measure quality of the deliverables. Having done that, identify the resources required, create action plans so that we can meet the time scales in an efficient way, identify and use applicable agreed processes, manage the activities within agreed budget, and ensure things happen on time. And also, last but not least, carry out a risk assessment, identify potential risks, and mitigate significant risks. Take action to prevent them, not to prevent. If they happen, make sure that you take the right actions. In fact, some risks you can prevent anyway. So, with this experience, I have learned to be a very effective project manager, an efficient project manager. I have had many, many great successes. I expect all of you to be effective and future project managers who are really efficient, who are really successful. So expecting all of you to be successful. Thank you.